So I just saw Godzilla. I have not had a love-hate relationship with a movie like this in a long time, and I wanted to talk to you guys a little about it. Apologizing for the moving camera there. Because I wanted to show how a person who is even mildly educated in a subject and sees a movie that doesn't treat the subject right, and I'm not talking about Godzilla, I'm talking about military protocol, the way explosives work. And from a film buff's point, how to do a film wrong and yet get the most important stuff right enough that a movie can have me literally cussing in the fucking theater out loud, probably because there was literally no one in the theater but me. I was alone in the theater because I decided to go the day after Memorial Day when everybody's at work and get a whole theater to myself so I can just sit there going like this. And watch a film that both aggravated and delighted me. So let's try to get through this reasonably fast. First, Bryan Cranston is wasted in this movie. The entire part of the movie he's in is completely useless and it's padding. The movie feels endless because of the poor editing and the poor plot structure. The movie is only 2 hours long and it felt longer than Spider-Man 3. It was fucking brutally long. And the reason why is the first 45 minutes, literally almost half the movie, useless, meaningless, doesn't even function as a proper origin story for Godzilla. Now, there's going to be spoilers, okay, here, so I'm just going to warn you, but I'm not going to really spoil the movie, because the movie is only really appreciable as a spectacle. You're going to not give a shit about the plot, even though the plot wasn't done horribly, because the common things that ruin these kinds of movies were done well. And surprisingly, the kind of things that are often done well in bad movies like this, bad action, monster, explosion-y, Michael Bay movies, that are usually done well, were done poorly here. It was a strange juxtaposition. First 45 minutes with Bryan Cranston as scientist shit, useless padding. There's no monsters. It's just like, oh, there's a nuclear disaster. The very beginning is extremely confusing. They find like some sort of skeleton that has 2 eggs, and you're like, what the fuck is this? It takes almost 40 minutes of the movie to get to the point where Bryan Cranston is just killed kind of pointlessly, and his son, who is such an everyman and such a blank, almost throwback, blank slate hero, who acts very much like an actual military guy. Like, this actor did his homework on how to behave. But the movie didn't give him a lot to work with. He barely speaks, which I actually kind of liked. And it allowed you to kind of project yourself into this main character, whose name I don't even remember. He's just referred to as Lieutenant, the bomb disposal guy, Mr. EOD, who, even though he's running around with the Army in an Army tactical unit, for the last half of the movie, he's a Navy guy for some reason, I think. Very little is explained. Okay, Ken Watanabe is in this movie. He is also wasted. The badass Japanese dude from The Last Samurai, countless other films, Inception, wasted. He does nothing but stand in a boardroom and make strange Japanese phrases. He's like, let them fight, and you must not nuke them. Here's the problem. At the very beginning, there's this subliminal tell that I noticed, but many people seeing the movie may not notice. They're showing the hydrogen bomb tests done in the Pacific Ocean by the U.S., and they're showing one of the bombs dropping, which the bombs were detonated in the ocean. Well, one of them was an atmospheric test way above the ocean, but they're just showing this bomb dropping, and right before the bomb drops, you see Godzilla pop up, and you're like, whoa, what the fuck was that? And here's where I get pissed off, because I know a little bit about that part of history, the way nuclear bombs work. The 2 major nuclear bomb tests in the ocean they referred to, they said these were not bomb tests. They were trying to kill Godzilla back in the 50s with these bombs. And at some point in the movie, it's explained to the main character in a kind of an exposition way that's kind of cheap, but it works, that they tried to nuke Godzilla, and it didn't work. The Army is trying, for the better part of a third of this movie, to use an ICBM manually. They can't fire it at him because I'll get to that point in a second, but I want to finish this point. They can't fire an ICBM or a nuclear missile like with targeting at Godzilla. So they decide that they have to, by train, by hook, by crook, by car, to get a bomb into San Francisco to nuke him. And Ken Watanabe is repeatedly telling this Navy admiral, don't nuke him, because first of all, you're going to kill a lot of innocent people. Second of all, Hiroshima's fucked up. Third of all, nukes don't work on Godzilla. And the guy says, Hiroshima was nothing, that was kilotons. We're going to drop megatons on Godzilla. It's going to work. Even if he feeds off of radiation, the sheer blast will destroy him. Here's the thing. Two of the biggest nukes ever used were the two nukes that were dropped in the Pacific Ocean. Those were 19 megaton bombs that were orders of thousands of times bigger than the Hiroshima and even the Nagasaki bomb. Ironic trivia fact, the Nagasaki bomb was bigger by like 10% in terms of blast damage and the kilotons of TNT it was. I guess because Hiroshima was the bigger and more important city, that's why we mentioned that. Nagasaki was the bigger bomb. And those were two nuclear fission bombs. Okay? They had like several hundred kilotons. I forget how many kilotons. Thousands of tons of TNT explosive damage. Megatons are another order of magnitude. Okay? So what were dropped in the Pacific Theater were nuclear fusion bombs. So they dropped the fucking sun on Godzilla and it didn't kill him. And they think they're going to use this ICBM tactical nuke to kill him. And the other two monsters. One of the only things this movie does right is they go into this the Japanese nuclear facility where I guess they were trying to keep Bryan Cranston's character out of there, and they're saying like, oh, it's a Chernobyl type area. It's all irradiated. It's a death zone, and there's no radiation there. And they find out they're hiding a chrysalis of what you think is Godzilla feeding off this nuclear reactor, and it's just been in a cocoon for 15 years. And a great reveal is it's not Godzilla. It's a ripoff of the fucking Cloverfield monster, which I'm assuming might have been like Ghidra or something. I don't know what these... And there's two of them. And one of them was in Nevada. Okay. They say in exposition, just very quick in passing, that there were two eggs that they found. With the first egg escaped and went to Japan and destroyed this nuclear reactor and killed Bryan Cranston's wife. And eventually killed Bryan Cranston when it hatched. And... it's just been feeding on this nuclear reactor for years. They took the other egg, took it to like Area 51. They said they vivisected it. Decided that like, oh, they like neutralized it or whatever. And it was highly irradiated, so when they were done studying it, this is never explained, they store it in a nuclear waste facility, storage facility, where even though it had been vivisected, which means cut the fuck open and dissected, it's been just sitting here also doing its crystallizing thing. And as soon as they go, hey, let's go find this thing and destroy it, is the exact moment it hatches and it's a female to the male that was fucking in Japan, and they meet each other. And so like when Ken Watanabe, Japanese guy, is, and I may be saying his name wrong. If I am, I apologize because I love this actor. I just don't think I've ever heard his name said out loud. If I'm saying Ken Watanabe wrong, my bad. Says, the only way that we can kill these two things, because he doesn't think we can nuke them either, because they keep trying to get nukes at these things, and these things are eating nukes out of submarines and just eating nukes. The way these things keep getting bigger and more powerful is these two other monsters that look like the Cloverfield monster with the knuckles and everything. They're eating nukes, and they want to throw more nukes at them. And yes, they eat all but one of the nukes, which is never used on them. Ken Watanabe thinks they should sick Godzilla on him. Next problem. I'm sorry it took so long to get to. Point number 2. Godzilla is apparently non-hostile and treated as an ally unit by the Navy. Now, the way they justify why the military can just do nothing against these other two monsters is because these other two monsters have 5-mile cones of EMPs where no electronics, no targeting systems work anywhere near them. We've established that Godzilla doesn't have this. They explain that they have to try to closely follow the other two monsters, which they do not successfully do, because the only way they can track them is by sight alone. They can't track them with radar, sonar, or anything else. For whatever reason. Like, even their satellite feeds with the jargon shit can't fucking target these things. But they don't successfully follow because one of them flies and the other one's in the U.S. mainland. But 2 aircraft carriers and 2, like, cruiser class, priceless, like 4 priceless Navy boats, including the USS Saratoga aircraft carrier, a priceless war machine worth billions of dollars, follow Godzilla, not by sonar, not even by eye contact. They flank his ass in formation with the boats. Godzilla's the size of the fucking World Trade Center and is just swimming at surface level just because he fucking feels like it so we can see him from an overhead view for just the convenience of the movie itself, which completely takes you out of the movie. There's so many, just these fucking idiosyncrasies completely take you out of the movie. And they're following Godzilla close enough that if Godzilla sneezes or stretches his arms like he stops doggy paddling and does the breaststroke, would fucking destroy the ships. They could follow him so fucking far away, and they are flanking him in formation like Godzilla aircraft carrier. Distance between them less than 30 yards. Unfucking believable. Which the wake of the aircraft carrier, in the wake of the fucking Godzilla, they just be fucking each other. They can't just fucking cruise like that. What the fuck? And this brings me to my third and most major gripe with this movie. This movie is a spit in the face, a fucking heinous insult to the American military. All their tactics are insane. They learn nothing from the way these these monsters operate, and repeatedly use tactics that cost billion-dollar aircraft, human lives, civilian lives. The military fucks this thing up like a bunch of school children retards in this movie. They're like, we know because in Japan, aircraft got fucked up by the EMP. Everything got fucked up by the EMP. In Hawaii, there's a scene in Hawaii where they try to just like send infantry to investigate the monster for some reason. So infantry are within striking distance of this monster, melee striking distance. There's helicopters circling it in striking distance. None of them are attacking it until it shows aggression because it's eating nukes out of a submarine it threw on the mainland because it felt like it. Now, in Hawaii is the first time Godzilla comes after one of these things and it attacks them in an airport. And it blows up all these planes, and repeatedly you're like, that's not how an explosion works. That should have shattered all the glass there. Because physics is point number 4, and we're going to mingle this. Blasts, explosions don't do what they're supposed to, but we let that go because movies have never done explosions properly. But they fly planes straight at these fucking monsters, and the EMP takes the planes out of the sky, and they crash, and boom. There goes $1 billion plane. Just left and right. They learned this in Hawaii a day before the event in San Francisco in the American mainland. What do they do in the American mainland? They fly jets straight into this 5-mile cone, which isn't that big in a citywide radius, and repeatedly get these planes pwned out of the sky by these things. Now, Top Gun lied to you. When modern jets fight each other, they fight each other at distances of like 60 miles. They can't even see each other. Planes attack shit from great distances, out of sight, using targeting. I don't give a fuck if this thing's got a 5-mile cone of EMP. A plane carrying a tactical thermal nuke could be flying around in fucking Los Angeles and shoot this fucking thing in San Francisco and blow it the fuck away. Because if they're gonna be like, fine, we're not gonna successfully evacuate the city, just blow the city. Just shoot it from fucking like 100 miles away. I don't even care if it gets within 5 miles of this thing. It loses all of its targeting data and has to explode on contact. Or is set to explode when it loses its targeting data or whatever. I don't know. At 5 miles with a nuke, even a tactical nuke, small nuke, doesn't matter. Fucking, it's going to hit the thing and it's going to kill the shit out of it if the nuke's going to do anything, which we've explained an hour before in the useless part of the movie. The nukes don't do shit to these things. Small armed fires don't do shit to these things. Repeatedly, the military is disorganized and in small tactical groups, out infantry on the ground, when we've already established in 3 different tactical zones that small arms and anything they can use with an EMP range is useless. Somehow, it's made clear that Godzilla is a non-hostile unit. That nobody fires on Godzilla. It should have been explained because we got just fucking ships escorting it. That nobody's to fire on Godzilla. And Godzilla chooses for no reason to pass through this right under the fucking Golden Gate Bridge or whatever bridge it is. I'm sorry, I don't remember which bridge is in San Francisco. And it chooses to enter the city through the bridge just for sheer spectacle. There's no reason for this. And it comes and it's avoiding the bridge. Multiple times we see the monsters either avoid infrastructure for no reason or just go through it. And there's no explanation as to none of these monsters appear to even have this need to attack humans or to purposefully destroy infrastructure for no other purpose than just to move through it. So there should have been no ground units anywhere near these things because it's proved that the two regular monsters just want to mate. And Godzilla just wants to kill them. And they're like, no, we're just going to move all these ground units in. And at no point is it made clear that any of these military units are coordinating. And you just see guys get spooked and fire on Godzilla. Just because Godzilla bumps into the bridge. Godzilla is obviously avoiding the bridge. He's passing, but he's like kind of trying to go away from the bridge. Like, I'm just moving under it because it's in my way. When he could have just walked through it. And guess what? He does walk through it because people just start shooting at him. And Godzilla does not seem to fucking see the military as a threat. They're completely useless against him. But he decides, well, since they're irritating me and getting my attention, now I'm going to stop ignoring them. And even though Godzilla clearly doesn't show them as a threat, he's like, no, now I'm going to destroy the bridge. Just... And at no point did the military seem to have any control over the civilian population. They're repeatedly just getting fucked with by the civilian population and not neutralizing anybody who's not following protocol. They're not doing anything the military actually does. They're fucking using retarded tactics. And I don't care how scared an infantry unit is. A human being sees Godzilla, sees other people shoot Godzilla with bullets, which obviously, just with common sense, would do nothing. And rather than trying to escape the area, like, I'm just going to hold completely still. I'm not going to call a tactical retreat. And just let them fucking all die. And several infantry units just get killed because they're stupid. So we've gone through 3/4 of the movie, this 2-hour movie, where the first 45 minutes don't matter. The middle part of the movie is just repeatedly, point number 4, just repeated cock blocks. You see Godzilla start fighting in Hawaii. You don't get to see it. You get to see part of it. You just get to see the Godzilla reveal, which is not the Halo jump. The trailer, the first trailer, end of the movie, last 20 minutes. This just ruins it, because it looked like such a great introduction. And by the way the way the trailer is shown, not in the movie. It's not, by that point, they're Halo jumping in, Godzilla's in full-blown fight mode. It isn't until the last 15 minutes of the movie that you really get to see a fight. You get to see a couple of shots thrown. You get to see the male flying monster repeatedly harass Godzilla and then leave, and Godzilla chases it. You finally get to that point. They're deciding we were stupid, and for some reason, the male finds the last nuke that they've jury-rigged to work on analog so that the EMP doesn't affect it, and takes it, and instead of eating it, brings it to the female to use as a mating gift. They somehow mate within the 30 seconds it takes Godzilla to get on the mainland. So that when the female drops all her eggs, they're already all clearly fertilized. When they were not shown mating, they would have only had fucking maybe 3 minutes of off-camera time to do that. And the female has in that time removed all the eggs from her belly and laid them all throughout this crater that it made during the fight and wrapped them around this nuke that is still set to go off within about an hour and 20 minutes. They get to the nuke, they remove the nuke, and they're able to do this, remove the nuke from the egg clutch and try to escape with it, because they have two protocols. Either disable the nuke, which they can't because the nuke got damaged and they can't access the control panel of it for some reason. Nobody brought the fucking blowtorch cutter or anything, any way to, if the nuke had been damaged, to fucking access it. So they try to escape with the nuke. And now Godzilla's fighting. And for the first 10 minutes of this fight, Godzilla is getting his ass kicked. Okay? Godzilla is literally on the ground just getting fucking curb stomped, just getting gangbanged by these two monsters. And he is getting stabbed. And the whole time I'm going, it looks like Godzilla's dying and he's being like stabbed. Godzilla can survive a fusion bomb. Godzilla can survive a hydrogen bomb. Godzilla can survive 19 megatons dropped on top of his head, literally. But he's like, oh, I'm getting beaten to death. And he's getting like stabbed. And they're just punching him to death and stabbing him. It's fucking stupid. And I'm like, oh, come on, Godzilla, fucking do something. And then the main character guy is like, I'm going to fucking like take this conveniently placed, knocked over tanker of fucking petroleum, open up the valve on it, and just burn all these eggs to death, which distracts the female. And here's the thing is like, another thing I was going to say is the monster's behavior doesn't make much sense. Godzilla has no concern whatsoever for humans. The other two monsters really don't do anything to any humans who are not in possession of nuclear or radioactive technology. They don't care. They destroy shit just because they're passing through and the shit's in their way. They're not actually trying to cause destruction at all. They don't care. They don't care about the military that doesn't seem to be able to do shit to them. They attack when shit's in their way and bothering them, but they don't seem to view anything around them as a threat. So, the female obviously goes, oh, my eggs are dying. But the male is still fighting Godzilla, and I'm like, oh, well, this makes sense. The male is going to continue to attack Godzilla because of this whole dominance thing, because Godzilla has no excuse whatsoever. I actually like this part, though. Godzilla appears, because none of this is explained or even really clearly shown. Godzilla has no need, no reason to attack these other two monsters other than he doesn't want them to exist. It's like a territorial thing. He's the king of the monsters. And that's kind of, I think, the way it was in the kaiju, is that Godzilla says, fuck you for existing. The world, I am, there can be only one. It's Highlander. It's fucking Highlander. So Godzilla is going after these things just because they exist. And they're awake. Because it used to be like Godzilla was the only one alive and he's swimming around. And they're nuking him because in the 50s, because they're afraid of him. And now there's these other two monsters, and now Godzilla's like, well, I don't care about shit other than I don't want them to live. So he's going after them. And the male doesn't go, I should continue killing Godzilla. He should go, oh, look, the female's worried about the eggs. I'm going to follow her and leave Godzilla completely alone to recover, which Godzilla does. And this is why as much as I have just bitched for 22 minutes, this movie is worth seeing. I give this movie a positive rating. I give it a 6.5 out of 10. It's a C+. When it could have been a disaster, because I could bitch about every 2 minutes of this movie individually for an hour. Seriously, fuck this movie. Fuck the editing, fuck the plot, fuck the writing. The acting, surprisingly, decent. Serviceable, good, believable. Acting. The plot, the way the military behaves, everything but the special effects and some of the acting's bullshit. It's bad. It's fucking takes you out of the movie repeatedly. There's one scene where Godzilla enters fucking San Francisco. He causes a tidal wave that washes over the city and obviously kills thousands of people. They do two things. They show a dog tied to a tree on the beach. And I go, oh, come on. Boomer's gonna live. Boomer must live. Have you ever seen this? Nostalgia Critic. You don't kill the dog. It was edited out of Terminator 2. You can't kill the dog. The dog lives. Next thing they show, small little child with a mommy carrying her. Can't kill a little kid. The way the mommy escapes is some person grabs her and pulls her into a storefront. The door swings shut. And then like 10,000 metric tons of water go through this building in plate glass that couldn't even stop my foot if I kicked hard enough, and I'm not a very strong person, holds a tidal wave as tall as 15 stories. It doesn't break. The door, which opens inward, is not even latched. And it holds and lets a little jet of water through. That isn't going like whoosh, it's going. That takes me out of the movie. I don't care if this is a movie about monsters who shoot laser beams. That's ridiculous. Cut it out of the movie. Okay? It's bad. Completely takes me out of the movie. The last 10 minutes you actually, after four repeated cock blocks where you're shown Godzilla fighting on CNN on a TV, or Godzilla just starts fighting and a door shuts, or Godzilla just starts fighting and a scene changes, which is infuriating. I actually screamed at the screen one time, because keep in mind I'm alone with just a friend in the movie theater. I go, fuck you, at the fucking screen. Stop cock blocking me. I came here to see the monsters fight. I only heard positive reviews of this movie. I still only expected to care about the monsters fighting. It's the last 10, 20 minutes. And then Godzilla starts kicking ass. After he gets back up, and this human guy the main character narrowly escapes the female coming after him. Godzilla, this does 4 times. 4 times it pulls the Jurassic Park where Godzilla silently, because the sound was done atrociously in this movie. The sound was bad. These monsters were silent when they wanted to be, caused earthquakes when they wanted to be, made loud breathing noises and roared and broke shit when they wanted, or were completely silent goddamn stealth ninjas when they wanted to be. And it wasn't just once or twice like fucking Jurassic Park. It was like fucking 20 times. Where you knew it's like the monster's coming right up in the main character, and you're like, he's fucked. I'm like, Godzilla is going to come in 3, 2, 1. Called it! And Godzilla just goes, hey, roar. And then you see, and there's so much smoke that there's like this repeated, almost Dragon Ball Z-esque, like reveal, like, oh, and then you see a tail, and it goes blue, 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 and he's like lighting up, and I'm like, atomic breath! The atomic breath was underwhelming. It just kind of looked like he laser puked. It was still satisfying, but it was so underwhelming because Godzilla is rendered gorgeously. The other 2 monsters look amazing. The destruction of the city looks completely believable, even if the sound is not. Nothing makes the right sounds. Not the guns, not the explosions, not the fucking shit falling over, not the... Godzilla doesn't even quite roar right. The other monsters don't make really hardly any sounds whatsoever. It's not... It takes you out of the film. I need to calm down a second. I'm so pissed. So, the atomic breath was underwhelming, but so satisfied when he happened. And he blasts the female, he starts fighting the male, and it appears like the male is kind of killing him. And the military kind of like distracts him a couple of times. And then Godzilla pulls a sick finishing move. After he keeps throwing this male monster around in an excellently cool-looking fight scene that was very well shot. There's very little shaky cam in this movie, which is a miracle. I fucking love this movie for not going the shaky cam route. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thumbs up. Godzilla does the tail swipe. And he hits this motherfucking male alien, which is like half the size of the female, so hard that he smashes him into a building. Now, Godzilla looks very weary. He's gotten fucking curb stomped repeatedly. He's gotten stabbed. He's used his energy breath, which appears to exhaust him. And he just tail swipes the fuck out of this. And I love the way it was done, because it wasn't overshot and it looks realistic. The fucking flying monster comes in and you just see tail swipe, and the building's right here. It's like fucking 20 yards away from the monster, and he just gets smashed. And he doesn't go flying, bouncy smash. They do that, like, not at all. He's just smashed directly in the building, and the building just impales him. Because it's just crunch. Just concussive force. And Godzilla's like, I'm tired. And then, this is such an obnoxious scene. Godzilla goes up and goes, oh, I made a mistake. Building just falls on top of him. And you're like, did they just kill Godzilla? Well, Godzilla's obviously going to live. Because you just never believe that Godzilla's going to be killed by this movie. Why would they kill the sequels? And the female just starts going after the main character and goes after the bomb. Kills the whole bomb crew because the bomb crew does the same. Not going to move. Going to believe my machine gun's going to do anything. Monster does not care about freaking bazookas or nothing. Just nothing's explained. Why the fuck the military is completely insanely retarded. They have worse AI than aliens, colonial marines. It's just bad. They're so stupid. They're so unbelievably stupid and die pointlessly. But you're never made to care about any of them, so you just don't even fucking care. And the female monster just kills the shit out of him. And the female monster's like, well, I'm gonna fucking fuck you up. And the main character has been exploded. He's fallen off of bridges and stuff. He's like so fucking Chuck Norris. You respect this guy because like he's almost this faceless. I only care about my family and doing my duty, which I really appreciated. They didn't overcomplicate him. They gave him a backstory with like Bryan Cranston, but it's like I don't give a fuck. My dad's a lunatic. I don't give a fuck. All I want to do is save my family. And it's not over. It's not even. It's underdone. It's like they don't even care. It's just like he's just like this. I am a real soldier, and it was the only thing they did that was in any way respectful to the military. Was this one guy, lieutenant, bomb disposal guy, just was like in it to win it, can't quit. He's fucking been awake for like 4 days, and the only sleep he's gotten is from being unconscious. He's just been exploded left and right. And he's just obviously like, it's not even that he's hurt, he's just exhausted. It's like he's just been beaten up by all these explosions, he can barely stay awake. And he's trying to defuse the bomb or drive the boat away. And all of a sudden, just the fucking female sneaks up on him. Ninja sneaks up on him, and it's just female, little tiny boat. Just fuck. 3, 2, 1. Godzilla. Boom, 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 boom. Just fucking Ninja sneaks up on that monster. And then the 10 seconds that are the only reason this movie is worth it at all. Godzilla pulls the King Kong, grabs this other fucking monster's mouth, and rips open her mouth. And you're like, oh, he's going to snap her face. That's awesome. No. Godzilla takes it one step beyond. Atomic breath down your throat, whore. Blows the fucking monster's head off. The monster's just dead. And then Godzilla, yes. This is the fucking king of the world. Fucking ribbon just drops down. And then Godzilla inexplicably is teleported about a mile away where he was by, this is obviously like an editing problem, by where he killed the male. Just lies down, and the building's on top of him again. Meaning they've clusterfucked this in editing where he apparently was probably supposed to kill the female first, and they switched it around. Come on, movies! Edit properly! Fuck you, quit rushing your releases, and fucking do this right. Godzilla won the fight in the ocean, but now he's back in the inner city under the building that the male dropped on top of him. The fuck? That happened 10 minutes ago. And he's like, oh, I'm dead. And it's the next day, and Godzilla's dead. And everybody's out making shit and stuff. And, you know, fixing shit. It's like, oh, yeah. And then Godzilla's like, ha, fooled you. You think they would kill me? Ha, ha, nuh-uh. He gets up, and he just looks around. And everyone's like, oh, shit, what do we do? The military's left because they're retarded. They haven't cordoned off this area anyways. There's like FDNY, or, you know, San Francisco, FD, you know, Fire Department San Francisco, just pulling people. They're on top of Godzilla, you know. And Godzilla just wakes up and he's like, oh, fuck, I'm so tired. I'm going home. Screw you guys, I'm going home. And he just walks off. The end. C+ on 10 minutes of the movie alone. This movie was edited poorly, written poorly. Surprisingly, the actors did good with the script they had. There was no plot. Ken Watanabe wasted. Bryan Cranston completely wasted and probably paid a shit ton of money to waste his time. Special effects, fantastic. Godzilla, fantastic. Looking gorgeous. His scale is perfect. He's utterly massive. He's ginormous and loud and intimidating. The other monsters are too. The one fight you're going to see is cool as fucking hell, and the little kid in you will fucking jizz in his pants. Oh, yeah! And then you leave going, worth it. Worth it. By the way, I saw it in 3D because my movie's a price gouging asshole, and literally 85% of all showtimes that were available were all 3D. It was obviously retconned 3D. None of the movie even appears to be in 3D. You completely forget that you're wearing glasses. It's another wasted 3D so they can up the price by about 60% on you. I went on discount day, so fuck you, Cinemark. Anyway, I had a good time. I was raging pissed. I was horribly insulted for the American military. The editing was poor. The sound design was very underwhelming. The acting was actually really good. It was not anything drama worthy or worth any sort of award, but for a stupid, shitty Michael Bay explosion fest acting, about the best you're ever gonna see in that kind of genre. The main character was, I appreciated him being kind of like a faceless warrior that you kind of project yourself into. He has almost no lines. He only cares about his super hot wife and his cute little kid. He's not required to have any sort of coming to terms with his dad's death. He's just like, fuck him. He was right, but he's dead. And just like, unlike him, he didn't move on from my mom dying. I moved on. I moved on immediately from him. I'm fucking G.I. Joe and I got a job to do. That was the only thing they did right by the military. The rest, if you were a veteran or an active service guy or have had any military training, and I haven't, and you go see this movie, you will be mortally offended. And you will just have to shut that part of your brain off if you can, because it's bullshit. And what you see of Godzilla is gorgeous. He's in like literally 15 minutes of the 120-minute runtime. Even though a lot happens in the middle of the movie with trying to bring the nuke into from Nevada to San Francisco or whatever the fuck. I don't know how they brought the nuke all the way from Nevada to San Francisco over land in 6 hours. Or however long this was. Time skips repeatedly. You don't know what the fuck's going on. It's just the last fight scene, which probably cost $1 zillion to make, was so worth it. Even though the movie is a lie, Godzilla's hardly in it. Godzilla's shoehorned into the flick. This movie was probably originally written without Godzilla even in consideration, and they're like, hey, throw Godzilla in there. And it smacks of to me like a Die Hard movie where they're like, hey, you know what would make this movie, this plot better, the screenplay better? John McClane. It was like that. But I'm just going to wrap it up. It's worth seeing. Pay as little money as you can. Netflix it. Or something like that. Just, I know it sounds wrong. Don't give this movie any money. But see it anyways. I'm sorry if I spoiled it for you, but honestly, fuck the plot. You're going to see it for the spectacle. And the action sequences and where shit's blowing up and where characters are in cars getting thrown around, really exciting. The multiple times where you're just getting shit roaring in your face. They repeatedly use this cheap shot where guy's on foot and he's in the middle of the road and one side of the, this is used 3 times in the movie, monster on one side of him, monster on the other side, and he's like, well, fuck me, and you get this excuse for this great Dutch angle camera shot, and Godzilla's like, run it down, and the other monster's like, I don't really make any noise, I'm gonna break shit, you know, and it's just, I felt so offended. Now I want to hate this movie, but I'm really glad I went. I was looking forward to this. The last 10 minutes worth it. I'm repeating myself. Have a nice day, everybody, and if you know anything about physics, explosions, chemistry, military tactics, you have any fucking common sense or any sort of like mammalian brain inside of you that knows how to assess threats, you're going to fucking get pissed at this movie, but you're going to be glad you went. The end.